to the PC remote function and turn that on. Depending on your Sony camera, you definitely want to check out the nuances that you need to do in menu before you actually connect it to your computer. The next step, you're gonna wanna connect your camera using a USB cable to your computer or laptop. Now, Sony would recommend that you put your camera in auto if you have a fairly older Sony camera. You don't need to do this. In my case, the Sony ZV-1 is considered a newer Sony camera, so I can actually put it in movie mode. The next step is to now open up whatever software you will be using your Sony as a webcam with, and in this case, I'll be opening up Zoom, and then I will change my camera source to use the Sony camera that I have plugged in, and then you should be good to go and ready to stand out in your video conferencing calls. Now, if you did all this and it didn't quite work, maybe you want to go through that page and check out some of the troubleshooting recommendations that Sony offers. It might just be that your computer may not work with the Sony software, which brings me to the second portion, which is using your Sony camera with an HDMI cable. However, there are some settings you need to lock in the menu in order to make that correct. So put your Sony camera in video mode and then go into the menu and then go over to the toolbox icon that you see on the top of your menu and then find where it says HDMI settings. On my camera, it's on page 3. But just scroll until you see HDMI settings. If you need to pause the video, and then select HDMI settings and then change your HDMI resolution to 1080p. Then you're gonna change your info display from on to off, keep TC output off, and control from HDMI off as well. And now you're ready to plug in your camera using an HDMI cable and a capture card. Now, it is important to note that you do need a capture card, and simply what this does is it turns an HDMI cable into a USB cable, but you can't just use some regular dongle, with your MacBook Pro or something. You actually need an actual capture card, and we'll post our best recommended capture cards down in the description below. And honestly, you don't need an expensive one. I think the one that we like always fluctuates around 20 bucks, and then the HDMI cable is usually around $10. So for $30, you're definitely leveling up your video conference calls and live streams, which is pretty sweet. So now once you have plugged in your camera using the capture card, you can open up whatever software or platform that you're gonna use as a webcam or live stream. In this case, I'll use Zoom, and then select the capture card as my input for my video, and there you have it. Your Sony is now your webcam, and you can look stupid fresh in front of everybody. A couple additional hacks that you may not know about is you can actually plug an audio solution like a shotgun mic or a lavalier or lapel mic into your Sony camera and select as your audio source the capture card as well. And this is a cool way to simplify your audio solution. And then the next hack I would encourage you to go with is actually to invest into a continuous power adapter that'll allow you to not worry about battery as you leave your camera on. You don't need to hit record while you're using this as a webcam. However, not worrying about your battery dying while you're on a live stream or you're on a Zoom call or something is pretty convenient and I think necessary. Now, I hope you got value in this video, but if you want to learn the best settings to set up your camera so that you don't have to leave it on auto, but you can actually lock it in and get blurry background and have the settings all dialed, you can click or tap the screen. And I can't wait to see you in a future video. Peace. The Sony ZV-E10 is one of the best cameras that you can use as a webcam for live streaming or conference calls because it's so easy to do. However, there are some things you want to know about in order to do this correctly. And so in this video, I'll be showing you how to use the Sony ZV-E10 as a webcam, and be sure to stick around because I'll share some of the best accessories that you want to maybe invest in if you are using this as a webcam, whether with your laptop or computer. So let's get into it. This video is sponsored by StreamYard. This is our go-to platform for live streaming to YouTube and Facebook, especially when we have multiple people joining us on a stream. With an incredibly easy to use interface for doing cool transitions, bringing in text on the screen, and seamlessly bringing on guests. This is the perfect platform for the new and experienced creators alike. You can use the link that we have in the description below to get $10 off. Hey, what's up? It's Omar Takori with Think Media. Now, I would encourage you to have your ZV-E10 with you so that you can follow along. Now, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is go into your menu and then go to the star icon on the far right. This is the My Menu setting where you can customize this menu. And I find it best to actually put shortcuts here with the Sony ZV-E10. And then you're gonna hit Add Item. Then you're gonna scroll over to page 12 and then go to USB streaming and then select the middle button and then add it to that location. Now you've added the option to turn your camera into webcam mode, because that's what you got to do in order to use it with the USB. Once you've added the USB streaming onto the custom menu, I want to encourage you to go back into the menu and actually change the overheating sensitivity to high. And that's going to give you a warning message. Just hit OK. And then I'm going to actually go back into my Sony, go to the menu, and turn on USB streaming. The next thing you're gonna do is plug in the Sony ZV-E10 into your computer or laptop using the USB cable that it either came with, or maybe you have an extra one lying around. We'll also post links down in the description below. Now I encourage you to open up a software on your computer or laptop, whether it be Zoom or maybe QuickTime, any software that would require you to select a webcam. So in this case, we'll use Zoom. Once the camera has USB streaming turned on and the camera plugged into your computer or laptop, you should now be able to select it as a webcam, and then you can see yourself super crispy clear out of your Sony ZV-E10, and you'd be ready to go. Now, if this doesn't work right away, I would just encourage you to check the mode you have the camera in and make sure it's in video mode. And then if you want to change the shoot mode, you can actually either leave it on intelligent auto, which is great, an automatic feature that will just gauge whatever lighting condition you're in, or you can put it in manual and set your settings that way. I kind of like doing that because it locks in your settings as opposed to changing the exposure when you start moving around and things like that. But I just want to share a couple of my favorite things to use with the Sony ZV-E10 as a webcam. And I would definitely say the first thing is a continuous power adapter, so I don't have to worry about battery. Using this camera on Zoom conference calls or maybe live streams and things like that, the last thing I want to do is have my camera die and then not have a battery to put in. So having one of these is definitely key, and we'll post a link to our best recommended one down in the description below. The next thing I would encourage you to look into is a microphone upgrade. And honestly, you can go with a super cheap solution that plugs right into your camera, because you can actually select your audio source as the ZV-E10 through the USB as well. So you don't need to use an external mic or an external USB mic if you use a ZV-E10 as a webcam. You can if you want, but that is something I would definitely recommend you investing in, because not only look good, but you can also sound good. And then the final accessory I would recommend you to get is to actually find out by watching my accessories video for the Sony ZV-E10, so that you can learn how you can maximize this camera and get the most out of it with the best accessories. So be sure to check out that video by clicking or tapping the screen, and I can't wait to see you in a future video. Peace.
Welcome to this complete masterclass where we're going to be breaking down the 14 things you need to know before you buy a camera for YouTube. I'm also going to be talking about the best cameras for YouTube in 2024.
The Sony ZV-E10. One of the coolest things about Sony cameras.
Today's video, I'm going to teach you.
One of the coolest things about Sony cameras is that you can use them as settings. So let's get into it. Text on the screen and seamlessly bringing on guests. This is the perfect platform for the new and experienced creators alike. You can use them as a web systems, but if you want away and at least software for try and see if your Sony will work with USB cable, you'll first need to download the Imaging Edge webcam software from Sony, and we'll link it down in the description below. But once you have downloaded that, you then want to go into your camera and specifically the type of, and then I need in menu in audio. newer Sony camera, so I can actually put it in movie mode. The next step is to now open up whatever software you will be using your Sony as a webcam with, and in this case, I'll be opening up Zoom, and then I will change my camera source to use the Sony camera that I have plugged in, and then you should be good to go and ready to stand out in your video conferencing calls. Now, if you did all this and it didn't quite work, maybe you want to go through that page and check out some of the troubleshooting recommendations that Sony offers. It might just be that your computer may not work with the Sony software, which brings me to the second portion, which is using your Sony camera with an HDMI cable. However, there are some settings you need to lock in the menu in order to make that correct. So put your Sony camera in video mode and then go into the menu and then go over to the toolbox icon that you see on the top of your menu and then find where it says HDMI settings. On my camera, it's on page 3, but just scroll until you see HDMI settings. If you need to pause the video, and then select HDMI settings and then change your HDMI resolution to 1080p. Then you're gonna change your